You alright, guys? You alright? Are we alright? We alright? We're alright, are we? Let's take a breath. Let's all take a breath. Let's bloody dive into this. Okay? Lots to get into. Okay? We're going to nitpick this, go through the weeds, and talk about several different things. We're going to talk about the good moments and where there were those good moments. There's been some interesting comments from a lot of people, and we're going to get into so much. We're going to talk about the passing networks. Found this bad boy, which is really, really good. We're going to talk about Jude Bellingham. Why is he so frustrated? I think I've figured it out. We're going to talk about some high-quality stats from those beloved people that started. We're going to talk about Kobbie Mainoo and Cole Palmer and the Cole Palmer effect. We're going to talk about actually Gallagher as well within all of this. And that midfield three. And what I haven't been very clear with is maybe sort of how I'm seeing the game. We're going to talk about Kobbie. We're going to talk about Gallagher. We're going to talk about Trent very briefly. And, of course, I'm going to put forward what I believe is the right way for England to move. Now, is this it? Is it not? I don't know. This is obviously the team that started the last game. Out of possession, crucially. But what I wanted to say right off the bat was, I think what's important when you're kind of watching me and watching this channel is, one, I'm an England fan and I would like England to do well. Secondly, what I'm kind of critiquing is it's not what I would do. I've made that clear for like 6 months, 3 months ago. I know what I would do is irrelevant right now. What's important is, what is Gareth Southgate trying to do? I think that's something that's worth kind of trying remembering. So from here on out, just remember that's what I'm attempting to do. Is I'm trying to go, okay, you've made that decision. You know, again, some people will turn the nose with this. He's an intelligent bloke, right? He obviously has a reason for it. Is it the same way I would play football? Probably not, man. But it's the road that he's going down. And this, of course, was the lineup they put forward. And so why was he trying to do it? So the first thing I want to talk about is Gallagher, Trent, and Kobbie Mainoo. Because obviously a big change happened at half-time, and I thought it was pretty effective in a way that I wasn't expecting. I actually thought it was a little bit harsh on Conor Gallagher. And the important thing to say here is that, as I say, there are different profiles of player, and there are different things that Gareth Southgate wants. We know he's pragmatic, and we know he's trying to find a way for this to work. And I found this, and I thought it was really, really interesting, because if we think about the sort of areas of the pitch, so this is MC Lackbot. We'll get a link. We'll put it in the comments because it was really interesting. It was an automated thing. We've got the passing networks that we'll get to as well. But I think to get a nice understanding of the fact that sort of Trent sits and wants to be that quarterback, he wants to play those passes, and so you therefore need those runners. That obviously wasn't working. Also, the starting position, I think, which I'll show you in a second, is different, right? So different when you think of Trent or you think of Conor Gallagher. If we move it along here, and just remember those different shapes. What Conor Gallagher did was a lot of the dirty work, a lot of the ugly stuff, and a lot of the stuff that people kind of won't be looking at and will turn their nose up at. And is he world class? I don't think he thinks he's world class, and that's fine. But is he a functional player that can offer something for the team in the first half of a game? And this is the thing that we'll come back to. We know Gareth is pragmatic. We know that. Okay? So what I will do at the end of this is I will do what I would love to see. But I think we need to talk about what Gareth Southgate is likely to do. And Conor Gallagher, despite coming off at half-time, I don't think he's actually burned any bridges with Southgate. I thought he did what he was put on the pitch to do pretty well. I'll show you Kobbie Mainoo's a little bit later on because we've got a lot of screenshots that really sort of showcase what we're trying to do here, which is try and show a bit of insight, right? But Kobbie Mainoo has a very different kind of shape to this. But what you can see from Conor Gallagher in terms of that blue sort of shape is the general areas of the pitch that he was getting involved with. But the important thing, I think, with Conor Gallagher was that he needed to kind of stay out the way. And actually, I'm going to skip across here to the passing network here. And RCM, that's Conor Gallagher. And what you can see here is a bit of a box. But I think it was very clear that Declan Rice was a single pivot. It was very clear that we generally wanted to go down that left-hand side. And in terms of zones of the pitch, I think that's really interesting as well, is that he was staying to that right-hand side, staying in that half space, which again we'll kind of get into because Kobbie Mainoo picked up a very different position. But I do want to give Conor Gallagher a bit of praise, just because I think he did a pretty selfless job and he is of use. So Trent, this is Trent's starting position, okay, in the game before. And that's the player that he is, right? You know, he wants to come and get the ball. He wants to then play those passes. He is world class at that. So why on earth would we want to stop that? But they were getting on each other's toes. There's nothing really happening here. Kane's not really getting involved here. But more importantly, the general spacing of the team felt like it was a little bit off in terms of getting up the pitch. And also kind of getting off each other's toes, which is a double-edged sword, but which we'll come to as well. But Trent, I think we all agree, in this team, on this occasion, with the personnel that's available right now, in centre midfield, not totally working. Now, the position that Conor Gallagher was getting into was so different. And he was constantly in this area here. And the spacing that he had here, I thought he did very, very well. But where he did do well was without the ball a lot of the time. And what it did was it didn't sort of, make it easy for the defending team, and it actually stretched the play and stretched the pitch a lot of the time. There was talk about Gary Neville saying it was all a bit basic. I can understand that, but I think I would use a different word. I would say it was just a little bit more simple. And the idea there was that you had some runners, you had some energy. Let's move it along. And what it also allowed for was, I guess, this lovely little triangle between these lads. But importantly, he always stayed out the way. And again, that sounds like a negative, but it was about stretching and occupying and keeping some players away from it all. Let's keep moving it. What I thought was really good with him, and again, something that won't be focused on at all, is that I think overall we were better out of possession. Obviously, they weren't really going for it, but they were playing a 4-4-2 out of possession and in possession. And I think, again, the difference that you've got with him as opposed to Trent is I think Trent stays there. I think he stays alongside Declan Rice, and they stay pretty much as a 4, right? Conor Gallagher has that energy. He's a bit more proactive. He's got a bit more thrust, let's say. And so with Conor Gallagher, this was an interesting moment where I thought Harry Kane was miles better in the press, miles better. But he's still, not as outrageously mobile as Bellingham, as Thogden, as Conor Gallagher. And Conor Gallagher sees it and he goes. And he goes quickly and he gets at them, and it means that they play the ball backwards. And that is something that is good. It's useful. It's important. And Kobbie Mainoo is a different kind of player. Gets around the pitch, but he drifts. He's a bit more chilled. So in terms of that out-and-out energy, that's what you're going to get with Conor Gallagher. I think this is a bit of a rogue one, so we'll move forward. This is the other thing, in terms of stretching the play. So let's draw a line here. And we're going to come to the passing and on the ball and all those things, because Kobbie Mainoo obviously offered so much more from that point of view. And I think down this left-hand side, you had that triangle of Bellingham and Thogden and Kieran Trippier had a lot of touches, I think 60 touches by the first half. And on the right side, it wasn't as fluent with the ball. But again, Bellingham has actually ended up picking up the ball here. And he is able to drive really, really far with the ball. And the only reason he's able to do that, really, is because of Conor Gallagher. Conor Gallagher is in a lovely little space there. He's backpedaling away. And as I said, he's on this line here. And if you look at the time there, 15:59, we move it on. A few seconds later, you've been able to now drive up the pitch and play the ball to Kyle Walker. And Kyle Walker, he can play this pass here, can play that pass there. And something nearly comes of it. Now, this is where it kind of falls down for Conor Gallagher a little bit, is does he want the ball there? I'm not sure, as a broad question, I don't think he enjoys having the ball there. I think he just likes getting about and being an old school midfielder. And so this move sort of breaks down. He kind of stretches the play a little bit more, but him and Saka kind of get in each other's way. Saka actually does really, really well, but they lose the ball. But again, remember that time here, because I think it's worth highlighting what these different players do for the team. Because Conor Gallagher, 16:03, he's up here. He actually ends up making a bursting run up here. If we move it on, this is about 10 seconds later. He's been up in that corner. He's now darting back. I don't know if you remember this. There's actually a tackle here from Trippier that he misses. He doesn't make the tackle. And so they're kind of on the break here. and they're in trouble. Gay's backpedaling. You've got your Declan Rice who's sitting there, but John Stones is one-on-one, and they need to go and, you need to get back. You need to help. And I think this is something that you wouldn't see with Conor Gallagher in terms of initially being really high here, but secondly, doing what he does, which is, first of all, gets himself back. Let's just go back again. So what's this, 6 seconds later? He's now got himself back in, affected the play, not made life easy. If we move it on one more, it's now allowed Gay to get himself back. Trippier's trying to help. The ball's kind of gone left and then come back. Again, affecting the game in some way, shape or form in terms of getting out and getting there. And then once more, he actually drives over and across. And you can see, again, look, 28. I'll go back one more. So 25, 16-25, 16-28, 16-30. He's had 3 interactions in terms of stopping an attack here. And he blocks it and I think does really, really well. So that is what you get with Conor Gallagher. The other thing in terms of the overall team, we spoke about this in the last stream, is whose team is it? And I think Southgate is trying to allow it to be everybody's team. And maybe he's just about got there now with the second half substitutions. But this is interesting as well because actually Harry Kane's here. Conor Gallagher, though, is keeping players up the pitch on that right-hand side as well so that the opposition can't just out and out completely close and compact the game. So Conor Gallagher did offer some good moments. And I think there's a few chances that we have. There's an offside goal. Look, the final pass is not there. It needs to be miles better. And in the second half, it was miles better. Let me show you this now. So if we go back to it, we had Trent always dropping deep, wanting to drop deep generally, right? You've got Conor Gallagher. He's staying in that right half space. What was really interesting about Mainoo is the drift. Good God, this lad loves to drift. And wow, he's bloody good at it. The sort of calmness that he offers. I think in the first few minutes, I was like, what are you doing over there? We've just got a bit of balance in terms of Conor Gallagher staying out of it and retaining the space. But something was really, really interesting in terms of how he played. And I'll show you it on the tactics board here. If you are enjoying yourself, hit the like button and tell your friends. Why not? Subscribe as well. So Gallagher, of course, came out. As we've said, we sort of had Thogden and Bellingham both doing this work here. But when we've got the ball, Trippier high and wide. Thogden quite wide, but dropping in at times, as we know. Bellingham staying up here. Gallagher was staying high as well. Bellingham drop. It was all quite fluid, let's be honest. But overall, it was this, right? And actually, Bellingham spent a lot of time there. We'll talk about Bellingham in a sec. But Gallagher comes off. Mainoo comes on. And to show you the zones of the pitch, as I said, Gallagher just stayed here. Sorry, that's Palmer. Gallagher stayed here and stayed out of the way. What I thought was really, really interesting, and we talk about zone 14 a lot. Mainoo actually ended up in zone 11, I think it is. Or maybe even, I think it was zone 11. And that was really, really interesting to me because it offered up shorter passes, but it also created space for other players as well. Let me show you exactly what I bloody mean. All right. So yeah. Are we? Is it? Could we? Still in the competition, guys. Moments. Figuring it out. It's a journey. Stick with us. It's a journey. So, this is... Where are we now? I think this is Mainoo time. We've got a lot to get through here, guys. Just make sure I've got the right one. I think this is Harry Kane dropping deep, isn't it? So let's move on. Mainoo. Now we'll come back to this, which I thought explains so much and is why Cole Palmer probably needs to have a far more active role, especially if you're going to play Mainoo in this team. But first things first, as I say, we've spoken about Conor Gallagher being in this area here. Mainoo, constantly in this area or this area. We've just spoken about those two sort of areas of the pitch. He kind of stayed within the centre circle a lot of the time. But as you saw from this bad boy, he did kind of drift and he came and he became a double pivot at times, but also got forward. And that space over on the right-hand side, what's he doing over there? Let's explain. Well, because I thought his drifting was great. And to one person, this might look like Saka is isolated. To another, I would suggest that maybe he's got a bit of space to move into areas that he kind of wants to. And the same, of course, was true for Cole Palmer. This is another example. Again, there's a lovely all of a sudden, if it's a space that players want to go into, that's actually a really nice space to have. Mainoo staying there and going into different lanes of the pitch as well, which I thought was really interesting as well. It's just different positions that you just would not see Conor Gallagher or Trent get into. That also leaves a little bit of a space for Harry Kane as well. Let's keep it moving. So if you want, he could do that, and he did. You know, there's a couple of moments he just drifted over here to try and help it out a little bit. But his footballing IQ in terms of his movement is just really, really lovely, and his calmness as well is just, I think it really does, it does feel very effervescent, and it's something that's not the word I wanted. His movement is very, it's just composed, isn't it? It's so composed for his age. And of course, this is 91 minutes. At this moment, you've got Gordon on the pitch. Gordon initially started here. He's then driven here and looked to be proactive, which he has, and positive, which he was. But importantly, Mainoo, again, not in this area here, not kind of stretching and keeping these players away. He went into that space. And one thing that we will touch in the end, but there's one thing that England have to do to break down these teams and to get in behind. And it is a state of mind, and it is a confidence thing, but it's something that Mainoo does right now. And it's lovely. It's a really lovely move. And I think what Mainoo's great at as well is you can see he understands what other players would like to do. So there's a pass there, of course. And then this is filth. First touch pass to Harry Kane. And then Harry Kane is able to kind of play the ball as well. And now this is the crux of it. Where is the space? Mainoo has been able to suck a lot of players into a very tight space. And even more important than that, I would say, this whole half of the pitch, you know, aside from one who's out of it anyway. And Cole Palmer has the chance. He, of course, misses the chance. But the chance is on that left foot. And it's kind of this space here that is available for that right winger. And Mainoo creates that whilst retaining balance. And that is why I think we're all so impressed by Mainoo. And it's something that we haven't totally seen in terms of that right-sided 8. You know, what do we want to do there? We're going to talk about Gordon and if he should play. Does Bellingham and Thogden work? We'll talk about that as well. But let's talk about Palmer and the Palmer impact. Because the Palmer impact was good, right? There was a tweet doing the rounds saying, oh, the litmus test on ball knowledge is if you want Cole Palmer to play. And I was like, ha ha ha, I get it. Because, like, you know, what's the difference? You might as well play Saka. Saka did nothing wrong, by the way. Did absolutely nothing wrong. But Palmer came on, and it is... Sometimes it's about... You go, wow, this lad's on a different planet right now. In terms of his, like... It's that Rooney. He's got that Rooney mentality. Mainoo is like a different character, clearly. But Palmer, he couldn't care less about you. He's going to affect the game. He's going to take you out of the game. And the fluidity that we then saw in terms of that partnership between Mainoo and Palmer was really interesting. But is there another player that could do exactly the same? First of all, let's have a look at Palmer and what he did brilliantly. So Palmer is right underneath me. He's out wide, as you would imagine, in that right space. And, of course, we've got Phil Foden here. He's gone for a little drift himself. And I think a lot of the time there was that understanding of different players on the pitch and a lot of willing runs, which we'll talk about in a sec. So Phil Foden gets on the ball here. And if we just move it through, again, say it with me, where is Kobe? Mainoo is there. He's not in that position that Conor Gallagher was in. A little bit more central. And it creates a new space for others, which I just think is really interesting. Did Gareth mean to do this? Maybe. I'm not totally sure. Possibly not. He might have got lucky with it. Who cares? I don't. But Mainoo, lovely position there. Again, that little bit more central. And as we move it on, it just leaves a lot more space for others. But also, the interchange here is really nice. Foden gets the ball. He gives it to Cole Palmer, who's underneath me. You can see him now. Great. And I think, look, especially on the right-hand side, Liverpool fans will know this. It's about triangles a lot of the time. And can those different players come into these different positions? Can they be comfortable in every position as well and understand the sort of flow of movement that's necessary? And sort of Foden drifting over to that side, I thought was really, really nice. And Cole Palmer, because he naturally likes to go this way, it works really well. Mainoo then gets involved. And actually, if we move it on, because Cole Palmer sees Mainoo and he plays it. And by this point, you've now actually got from the starting point of two shots ago, where you've got a very flat line. We move it along 2, and you've actually got Thogden, who's deep, Palmer, who's in the 10 position, Kobbie Mainoo coming over to his right-hand side. And again, all 3 really comfortable in those areas. It's really, really nice. And again, that dialogue between the 2 of them was always there. Again, where's Kobbie Mainoo? He's here. This time it's Kyle Walker. Palmer's going to get the ball. What's Cole Palmer going to want to do? He's going to want to go this way. What does that mean? Kyle Walker's going to do a cheeky overlap. Little plug for the overlap there. We move it forward. It does exactly that. Palmer comes in, but again, Kobbie Mainoo doesn't stop. He makes that darting run. Cole Palmer is positive. He plays the ball forward. Come on, England. We can do this. Kyle Walker with a lovely little run. Didn't need you on that occasion, but you did do brilliantly for the team. We move it forward. And Kobbie Mainoo is able to get a cross in. Conor Gallagher maybe is doing that, but he's doing it from a different position. He's actually kind of taking up space. Kobbie Mainoo staying in that middle third. You know what I mean. In the middle. It gives him that space to kind of go over there. And it's just super, super clever. Cross comes in. Goal doesn't happen, which is disappointing. I think there were a few eyebrows at Bellingham on the left stick, but he's probably knackered by this point. But it's good stuff, right? It's good stuff. We're creating. It's coming. It's coming. And again, another one. Kyle Walker plays it to Cole Palmer. This time, a little bit different. And Kobbie, they just give each other the eyes, and it's nice. Kobbie Mainoo, he makes this little run. Cole Palmer is then able to drive into that space that's been left behind. Lovely. And it kind of works for Harry Kane as well, because he can see that movement. He can see that drive from Cole Palmer. Again, Cole Palmer's trying to play the ball forwards, and he's got the ability to play passes as well. He's spun around Harry Kane now by this point, and Cole Palmer's able to find him. He does find him. And again, we're in a good position. Again, we get a cross in. And Jude Bellingham, who'd made a run to get involved as well, he's in the box, and it could be so different. All these moments could be so different. I think the clicking is a fair point. We're not clicking. It's not clicking, but it did begin to click. And that comes from those different elements of movement. And you saw it time and again with 2 players playing with absolute freedom in Kobbie Mainoo and Cole Palmer in this one. It was really, really, really good stuff. And sometimes when the goal doesn't go in, of course, that's disappointing. But are we seeing the movement? Do we understand the movement? There are moments. I get it, Slovenia. And this is filth. I was like, wow. Like for a good while with this one. Because, again, that understanding of, okay, the body weight of you. I'm going to take this touch with the outside of my foot, side on, so I can get that little touch. And I'm just going to go and steal a foul. Super clever stuff. And you don't do that if you're nervous about controlling the ball. You're not doing that if you're nervous about, letting England down. And I think with the way that England are right now, let's have a little sip, shall we? These kind of players can refresh. They can excite the other players, and they can kind of let them know, oh yeah, I can do that as well. Because I tell you, it takes 10 minutes. It'll take 10 minutes, bippity bip bop 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 boop, 3 goals, and we're a great team again. Is that likely? Look, this is the knife edge we're on now. It's knockout football. And when it doesn't click, it feels turgid, doesn't it? And that's why I think you've got to have some of these free spirits in here. Is Southgate brave enough to do it? And if he is going to do it, I think his substitutions have generally been pretty brave. Or he's gone for it, in terms of attacking substitutions. Would he start these guys? Talk about Jude Bellingham now. Now, Jude Bellingham, I spoke about it yesterday, and my initial thoughts were I thought his body language was disappointing. And now I've had a few moments where I've kind of watched Jude Bellingham, and I think one that stuck in my mind was Borussia Dortmund versus Rangers, and he was sort of waving his arms and he was getting frustrated. And I wanted to sort of dive into that because I think what's really dangerous here is that obviously Jude Bellingham has been built up so much. I love him. I absolutely love him. And I thought, okay, you're really frustrated. What, you're a prima donna now? No, probably not. Let's have a little look and let's dive a little bit deeper. And so first of all, let's talk about Jude Bellingham's performance. Didn't totally work. I think there are moments where he's doing a lot for the team, which I'll show you. But the big problem for him was losing the ball in this one. Kind of the areas of the pitch he was in is probably not exactly the same areas of the pitch. And obviously, this team, the chemistry is not at the level, and you're not got the same runners as Vinicius Jr. There's not the same fear in the opponent as he will have with Real Madrid as well. And I thought what was really interesting was we went on to StatHead. And if you want to get yourself a StatHead subscription, you can do. Links in the description. You get yourself a free month. So you can get a month absolutely for free. And then you can get 20% off an annual subscription. So I wanted to dive into it. So the English players and their take on success rate. So if you see here, where are we? Let's do success rate. So, I shouldn't have done it. Shouldn't have bloody done it. Why have I done that? Oh, thank God. So, in terms of number of attempts to take on defenders while dribbling, 3.8 per 90 this season for Real Madrid. And his success rate, which you can just about see, just to the right of me there, oh, that's good, isn't it? There, is 51.5%. And we're able to get into the weeds of this with StatHead. Honestly, it's so good. Single seasons, 23-24, men's club competition, big 5 European leagues, minimum 5 90s, eligible for England, sorted by descending take-on attempts. Wow, comprehensive, right? And then I looked at FB Ref and his stats from last night. And what's interesting here is that he attempted 5 take-ons. Only 1 was successful. And obviously, therefore, the success rate was 20%. He was tackled 4 times. 80% of the time, of course, he was tackled. So from that point of view, I then started to think, well, that would frustrate you, obviously. So let's now have a look at the clips. Let's first of all look at his frustration, because I think 2 things can be true here. And I think, do you know what I think about? I think about Roger Federer. Roger Federer, with utter grace as a tennis player, and obviously one of the greatest of all time. And honestly, I don't think you can overhype Jude Bellingham. I think he's phenomenal as a footballer. I love his tenacity. He eats the ground. But he does show his frustration. And I remember Roger Federer apparently as a youngster, he used to have that same problem where he would just, smash rackets, all these things that you would never imagine with Roger Federer. And then either he had a sort of talk with himself or someone had a talk with him and said, you can't give that to people, and you can't do that to yourself. And I think in a team game, obviously for individual sport, tennis, but as in a team game, I think he's got to work on it. He's got to work on that frustration. And look, he cares so much, you can tell, and he's desperate to do it. And I think this is a great set of shots here that explain both the frustration, and I think some people are going to take that the wrong way. And hopefully you kind of hear it here first, because I was sort of thinking, I don't really do this to him. But I think other people are going to jump on this and then just do this sort of character assassination on him. And it's not right. It's not the right thing to do. But I'll show you the frustration first, and then I'll show you why he's frustrated. So this is in the 36th minute. So I think important here, look at the clock, 36:38. Okay, the ball's come out, and Jude Bellingham, who eats ground, not literally, with his feet, he has pressed. He's worked really hard. He's then curved his run to stop that passing lane, and he's hoping for a bit more from the rest of the team. He's expecting them to be, aligned with him and a bit higher, bit higher, bit higher. If we move it on, Declan Rice isn't there. They're not at it. They're not up, and you can see he's frustrated. Arms out. He's annoyed. He's annoyed because he wants more, and it's standards as well as anything. So different people are going to interpret this in different ways. And I'm not saying as good as Roger Federer. I'm just talking about, elite sport and what players have to do. They have to sort of, and especially in team sport, what they have to do, and how they have to deal with their frustrations, right? Because these are humans. These are human beings. So he's disappointed with the press there. 36:43, that is. This is... Have I gone the wrong way? I've gone the wrong way. There we go. This is 36:59. So very shortly after, he's doing another pressing action this time, right? Declan Rice is trying to help him because he's obviously just been told off. The rest of the team is in a sort of a far more sort of simple set position. But Jude Bellingham's disappointed again. And again, we zoom it in, head to the sky, he's frustrated. he's actually so frustrated that he then points, I think, at Harry Kane, possibly the defender, not totally sure, and then actually looks. He actually looks to the bench because he's frustrated, you know. But does this help? You know. So, and again, we go back 37:02, and I think this is the thing that I've been really impressed with. Like these moments of frustration, you keep watching. Seconds later, he's back at it. Seconds later, he's showing that tenacity, stamina, desire to help the team and to win. So we've just shown you 2 instances there. 20 seconds later, he's come back again. He could just stand up front. He could just do that. He could just chill. Doesn't want to do that. He wants to get back. He wants to help. He wants to affect the game. And you've got to love that about him. So calls for dropping him is, be wary of that. So he's coming back and he's getting at him. And we move it on again. Again. Another action. Eating the ground. He's got 3 players around him. He's going to go and do it himself. These are all positive traits. And again, they're able to get the ball away. But overall, the press isn't strong enough. Overall, the press isn't as tenacious. And once again, you can just about see him, hopefully. He's annoyed. He's really annoyed. And I just think I could see the media jumping on that and kind of doing it for the wrong reasons. Is it right? Is it helpful? Not totally sure. Well, it's not helpful, is it? And there are moments where he's not getting the ball and he's sort of flapping his arms. I just think it's something he needs to think about because it's an easy change. It's not like, we can't do that. So why is that happening? Well, when we talk about this midfield and we talk about Bellingham and Thogden and if they can play together, this passing network, again, people will read this wrong and they'll think they're on the same spot. They're not in the same spot. They're in different spots. So let me show you. So there were moments when Thogden would stay wide and Bellingham would drop here. And then there were moments where Thogden would do that and Bellingham would make that run. But what has to be remembered with this, because again, people could clip up that him flapping his arms. And me, myself, I had that snapshot last night and I spoke about it. Why is it happening? I'll tell you why. Because when we move it along, this is in the first few minutes. Like, he is a human. Starting in that position there. Drives. Good God, he drives. Doesn't get the ball. Second time. He picks up the ball here. Again, think about the running that other players do and how elite he is in terms of being. And just the desire. He's just incredible. He's really deep here, obviously. But if we move it on. He then is on his way. That is a full-on sprint he's doing. And driving. Why is he doing that? Just to create some space. Just to take this player away. Sacrificial runs. Starting behind Declan Rice. And also to create space for Harry Kane. He does that. It's very unlikely he's going to get the ball, but he wants to break the line. He wants to work hard. He wants to affect the game. This is early on in the game. Another one. This is about 20 minutes. Driving run. And do you know what the other thing that's great is? You can see from his body language here. Once that ball is popped back, it's only just left Foden's foot. He's gone. So these are all great attributes when we're talking about stretching it. And if you can see, this is the 25th minute. You can see this is the first time his body language is just a little bit different. He's starting to get a little bit frustrated, maybe a touch tired. And people talking about him being leggy. Of course he's bloody leggy. Like, he is doing so many runs for the team. Gay gets on the ball. Yeah, you know what's happening. He's driving, making that run. I thought Phil Foden did it as well, but Phil Foden likes to sort of play and go. Bellingham eats the ground. He drives. Again, another option. And on another day, the ball's a little bit better. He's able to take that touch, and we've got ourselves a goal, guys. It's a simple tap-in. Saka at the back post as well. But the ball's not exactly right. So this is driving stuff. And again, we talk about Harry Kane, people saying dropping too deep. And as this team looks to evolve and understand, it's about that eye contact. It's about that moment where you see that player and go, oh, I know what you want to do. And that comes with time and comes with games. Of course it hasn't clicked. But this pass from Kane only comes if Jude Bellingham makes that run. And it's the IQ of the guy. The intelligence is there. But the dribbling itself, maybe not as phenomenal as a Foden, but in terms of driving and running and offering something to the team as a passing option, that pass is obviously phenomenal. But that pass does not happen without Jude Bellingham. So you can understand when he's working so hard with the ball, when he's working so hard without the ball, why he is getting frustrated. You know, he's a young lad. So there's still things that, you know, he needs to mature, and that will come. But I think it's impressive stuff, you know, the hard work that he's putting in there. And coming back to that, I think we've now got a decision to make, right? A lot of decisions to make. And who are your starters, who are your finishers? I think this passing network shows, and I think I'd love to know in the chat, who thought that Bellingham and Foden were okay? Or is it one where, come on, get Gordon on, for God's sake? So, say Gordon for God's sake, if you wanted Gordon. Or, no, I liked it, if you're Foden and Bellingham. Because, as I said at the start of the video, what is Southgate trying to do? He's trying to progress through the tournament, and he is defensively first, but I think he is trying to sort of tweak that somewhat with the, you know, quality that we've got. And he said this numerous times. I think he's wary of kind of hurting these youngsters, but I think he has to see it a different way. I think he has to see that these lads, they are unaffected right now. And actually, I thought Kane worked harder. I thought Rice was better. I thought Trippier, you know, you had that different role in terms of these three sort of working together, but broke lines, tried. I think Foden, you know, we talk about Bellingham being frustrated. There's clips of Foden frustrated as well. He's just a bit tighter with it in terms of his body language. And as we spoke about, Mainoo sort of coming over to kind of come and help. And also, I think there's something here where you've got two sort of 6'8s, where Mainoo can sit if Declan Rice wants to go. And I thought he was positive at times. I thought Kane worked harder than he has done, certainly in the last two games. Defending is an attitude. Saka's done nothing wrong. Walker, I thought, was terrible, and I think there's a decision there to be made. But again, what will Southgate do, and what would I do? What's everyone saying? A few people saying Jude and Phil were good. Gordon, Foden and Bellingham. Gallagher out. Okay. So, let's go back to that starting lineup. Because I think, I would also love to know, do you agree with me in terms of what Gallagher was offering yesterday, and that wasn't a wasted exercise? I'd be intrigued to know if you guys agree with that. Say yes or no. Yes, I get it. No, it was a wasted exercise. Bellingham. So obviously it's out of possession. It's actually the other way around, isn't it? Phone's kind of being here. Trippier. Well, we don't want to do that. In possession, bloody hell. Let's get behind the lads. So look, what does Gareth Southgate do? What is he trying to do? He's trying to protect the team. He's trying to concede few goals. If you haven't conceded a goal, you're not out of the tournament as of yet, and then you might get done on penalties. I know we all want to see it click, and I think he really is trying to get it to click. And in terms of the sort of, I guess, pairings here, you've got one here which is gently building. I think you could maybe chuck Trippier in that as well as a 3. I think Rice was on his own. I don't think with the ball this worked. But I think defensively and again, creating space all over the pitch, I thought there was something there. I think we've got to be really happy with this. You know, we don't have to worry about Stones. We know he's a great player. Gay, I think, has just been phenomenal, personally. So there's big decisions here. And I think Bellingham's an interesting place to start because with Bellingham, you have a few options, in my opinion. Now, I think Southgate will stick with this. I think he will stick with this. I don't think he's going to run away from it. I think you've used 3 games. You're starting to see it a touch. I think there's possibly a better outcome. And I think there's also a sort of braver outcome in terms of who are you starting and who are you finishing. So options include, you keep that as it is and you change this right-hand side, or you keep it exactly as it is, right? And maybe against a better team, do you do that for 45 minutes and you go, look, Saka, you will be off after 60 minutes. I need you to run yourself into the ground. Gallagher, the same. Work. Because it's a 16-man game these days. Luke Shaw, are we really going to see him? I haven't seen him yet, have we? And again, Trent versus Walker, another brave decision to be made. Because defensively, obviously, Walker, you know, we know, right? But Bellingham, So you can play Bellingham in this position here, and I think out of possession, I think that's important to sort of touch on as well, because you have that. The other option that I don't think anyone's talking about, when we talk about the work that Bellingham does, the running that he does, the eating of the ground, and the fact that he's not really a dribbler, I don't think. I think he just, as I say, he's starting runs into the channel behind the 6. I think there's a decision to be made where, look, we're all screaming for Gordon. And I haven't got a Gordon here. That's really annoying. Let me just quickly put Gordon in. Apologies. There's Gordon. I think there's something in this. And I know I keep coming back to this, and this is the thing, when people go in delusion when it comes to Southgate, I have to analyse what he's done and what he's trying to do. And I think we've shown that with Gallagher and what he offers in terms of that energy. Bellingham offers that similar energy. I think out of possession, it then becomes this. But I like that. And I think when we were talking about that defender previously and Gallagher, stepping up on him, Bellingham sees it. I'm telling you. Gordon's going to get at you. The one thing Stuart, a lot of people said this, and I think it's utter nonsense, is the fact that you think that these two have chemistry. Trippier plays right back. I know they're in the same, club, but they don't play together. But Trippier's, 6 out of 10. He's a solid player, and I think he's willing, and he would quite enjoy just to clip a bloody ball over the top for Gordon all the time. So this is what I would do. I would let Bellingham eat this bloody ground. That is yours. Go and get into the box. Declan Rice is going to sit for you. I don't hate this at all. And again, we can play different ways, and feel free to disagree with me, because I think the other thing to say, if you're not going to play Gordon and you're going to keep this, we talk about the Trent experiment. If you're going to keep this experiment going, you have to do this. You have to. You absolutely have to. You have to play Kobbie Mainoo. Have to. Now, defensively, is that going to hurt us in some way? Maybe. In terms of that out-and-out tenacity. I think you'd have to sort of play that hand and see how it plays out. But I would like to see that positivity. And I think with what we've said in terms of, him coming over and then that creating both a bit of space for Kane to drop in here. And there were moments where he made that run himself. He really just interpreted the space and kind of enjoyed that. But also, if Kane does stay, this half space for Saka to get into or for Palmer to get into, which is another conversation. The other thing here is, if we bring Gallagher back in, what is Gareth Southgate going to do? And how do you start and how do you finish? It's like making love to a beautiful woman. You got to focus on the start, you got to focus on the finish. Right, or not finishing sometime. Whatever. If he is going to stick with the Foden Bellingham thing, and he's gone down that road quite severely now, this is what I think Gareth Southgate will do. I think he will do this. I think he might be brave enough to do that, but there's no way he doesn't start Saka for me. I think what he will end up doing is that. I think he'll stick with what he had. I think we'll be frustrated. I think people will understandably be moaning. I think Gallagher will keep them high. He will press. He will put out a few fires, as will Declan Rice. And Saka will sort of, try his best. And I think he's had an all right tournament, but he's just not got the ball enough. And I think in the second half, I think he would then make that change. And if we really need a goal, then you make that change as well. But I think he has to be honest about Bellingham. If Bellingham's going to do the work that he's doing, at some point, if he is blowing, just let Foden go in the middle and take him off. Because the reason he's blowing is he is working so hard. I think he's working harder than any player on that pitch. So anyone says anything else when you're talking about attitude, and I had questions myself about attitude, he is frustrated, but his attitude is exemplary. It is elite. I think a halfway house for me, I would love to see this. I think he'll stick with Foden. And again, my team is you start with that. I just need to see Gordon. Do I actually? Yeah, I think I start with. Hang on, What are we doing? I think I start with that. And I think literally 60 minutes, you change it. I just think he would eat it up, Bellingham. But is he shattered? These are the sort of nuanced decisions that he has to make. I have absolutely no problem if he just goes, yeah, go on then. You guys have been awesome. Saka, you'll have to come off the bench and do something. So I think in terms of me making a decision, it's kind of pointless because I think Gordon, has so much to offer. And in terms of balance, I've been pretty consistent on this. I would like to see that. But Mainoo as a player to come on, or even to start in this game, I love. Kane needs bodies to go past him. Bellingham would do that. Foden would do that. Gordon would do that. Bellingham could pop in as well if he needed a little breather. And I think Bellingham would make this darting run as well, which would give Palmer that same space. Because I think Bellingham would naturally kind of want to get involved as well. Now, to sort of swap and go, Bellingham go and copy Mainoo, maybe feels a little bit harsh. But these are the decisions that Gallagher has to make. Starters and finishers. I think that's what it's about. I hope we're like 1-0 up. This is what will happen. This is exactly what will happen. He will do this. Oh, Christ. He will do this. We will play 60 minutes. He will do this. He will then do this. He will then do this. If we're struggling. And it might be... I think he's more likely to keep on Foden than Bellingham. I think he'll go down that route. So there we have it. There are positives. It hasn't clicked as of yet, but hopefully you enjoyed that. If you did, please do me a favour, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and check out the stream from yesterday. We did player ratings, and just have a bloody good day. And I'll tell you what, if anyone's got any tickets,